to 3 p.m. M&N Hardware Limited. Come on in and experience our affordable prices, or call us 444-6757 or 440-6757 Dusty Highway. Email us at info@mahonhardware.com or mnmdusty@mahonhardware.com. M&N Hardware, foundation to roof. Let's build together.
Let's get tough on breed larceny. It will destroy our economy. Larceny threatens our food security. Can hurt us locally, hurt us globally. To all the buyers, ask for license from all produce sellers. To all people, call 300 for police for them thieving fellas. To all the farmers, please don't steal produce from your brother. Then you sell it to traffickers, hotels and street vendors. Nah, man. Let's do all we can to stop breed larceny. New vigilance, new laws, and a tough judiciary. Stop Grenada's organized business crime. It's time.
To report breed larceny, call 300.
Win more with the NLA's Daily Cash Fall. Every day with more plays and bigger prizes to be won. It's a 4-digit game with all the bet types you already know and much, much more. From 0000 to 9999. Choose your 4 numbers and place your bet from 11 different bet types. Choose from inline, 4 different mixes, first 3, last 3, and 4 different backup options too. Best of all, it starts at just $1, except for backups, which starts at $2. Win as much as $5,000 with a $1 inline bet and as much as $6,200 in a $2 backup bet. Imagine $50,000 for a winning $10 inline bet. There's definitely more to win with the Daily Cash 4. More plays, bigger prizes, twice per day, Mondays to Saturdays. Must be 18 and over to participate. NLA, making your dreams come true while supporting sports, culture, and nation building.
Police walking on eggshells for you. We never get it right. It's not just the criminals, but society gives the biggest fight. Unwarranted slander we endure every day. You say police is police just for the government. Hey, oh gosh, I put you before my family. With my life I protect you daily, but before I make a flaw, you're ready to hang this towards the law. Kill Brenty, you say them police too jokey. No man fight with police and dead. You say the force is where killers are bred. So when I hear you complaining, I have to agree. Is you society guilty of police brutality against me? The brutal society brutal. Oh gosh, they brutal. My society brutal. Police here have to tiptoe. Good Lord.
Yes, listeners, pleasant morning to you. Whenever you hear that song, whenever you hear Keturah George, you know it's the conversation with the RGPF from the Eastern Division. And this morning is no exception. Thank God it's Wednesday. It's a hot Wednesday. It's a spritey Wednesday as well. But for me in studio, I am not virtual, I'm live. And I'm very much happy being in studio, not because it's just Wednesday, but my guests. And I know that those of you looking on via Facebook and whatever other medium, I know you're already seeing my guests. But it gives me pleasure and privilege to be in studio with the officer in charge of the division. And that program this morning was long awaiting. That would have been about my 4th attempt to have my superior in studio with us, be it virtually or otherwise. But thank God it is happening today. And I'm kind of comfortable as to when it's happening. So it's not my program, that's my guest, and we're going to enjoy. But please remember, listeners, regardless to all of how it is bright and sprightly on the outside, bear in mind we're still in our COVID situation. And those of us who would have listened to the press release yesterday from the Ministry of Health, you would realize that all is not well with Grenada. And as a result, we need to take our precautionary measures. As I always say to you, bear in mind, when you're dressing, part of your uniform now is that of to have a mask with you and also to observe all the protocols that has been given, social distancing, sanitizing or hand washing, and also to do the contact tracing in terms of recording your name. Bear in mind, if you fail to wear your mask, you can be penalized either through a citation of a ticket value $5.50, or if you're charged, then the maximum at court is $1,000 at the magistrate's discretion. But let me also say to you, if you fail to give your name and address when asked by an officer in so wanting to issue you with a ticket, you can now be arrested, and that's law. So let us be safe, let us keep Grenada safe, and let's do what we're supposed to do. But in studio with me is none other than Superintendent Intyre, officer in charge of the Eastern Division. And good morning to you, sir. It gives me pleasure to have you in studio with me.
Pleasant good morning to you, host, Corporal Jessel Grant. And pleasant good morning to the followers, the viewers, the listeners, and all persons who do have the ability and access to listen and to view this program. It is my really esteemed pleasure to be here, as Ms. Grant articulated or mentioned a while ago. It's long overdue. And even Mr. Donald himself has been requesting me on many, many occasions to be on his programs to really highlight the issues affecting or raised as part of concerns for the RGPF and the Eastern Division in particular. So once again, I'm really happy to be here and hope we can have a very useful, meaningful, educational, informative exchange for what period of time, whatever it is, allocated to the program for this morning. So once again, good morning to everyone. Good evening, good night if you are following from a different part of the globe.
I've never said that on a program, but I'm so happy that you did, because Real FM is reaching the diaspora internationally and regionally, and I know that there are different time zones.
Yes.
Super, with you being on the top chair within the division, and with all of your experience in terms of community relation, some form of military, because you've been SSU when I joined, I remember you in SSU all these years, and also some of the civilian world attached to NADMA. Now with a pandemic outside, how would you compare policing for you now as a person?
Policing in itself, the last part of the question, is one of the thread that passes through every sector, every segment of society. It is similar to that of disaster management that connects all sector, all people at all times, and that's comprehensive disaster management. So police is and national security issues. It forms part of everything that one does. Mm-hmm. And if you look at policing in itself, it simply means ensuring that things happen within a guided way, principled way, technically. And that's what policing is all about. And I expand on policing to say that while as police uniformed or otherwise, we are law enforcement, but policing of Grenada and the society is a national or everybody's affair and responsibility. And that's the bottom line. So I bring with me that background and experience that I can contribute and still learn within the Eastern Division the best way in connecting with people. Mm-hmm. Our fundamental responsibility is the protection of property and lives, to protect and to serve. And that's what it is. In whatever angle, whatever direction we take it from, the bottom line is that we are there fundamentally to protect and to serve people. And we would need to find the best medium, the best fit, the best strategy to connect to people. So whether it is coming from a military, civil background or otherwise, people forms the center of it. And whether we are looking at some disaster situation or we're looking about a crime prevention situation, community links to everything that we do. So as we go deeper into the program, you will recognize that one of our trust and main focus would be that of community engagement. And I really actually, I'm passionate about people linking community because my background in community relations, I really campaigned on meeting people where they are and not just coming to you. But when you are able to meet people on their own ground, their own turf, in their own community, you get the full understanding of what and how people feel. And on the side of policing, it helps us to understand better how to police and meet the security and the challenges and the needs that people have at community levels.
Thank you so much. But I know for a fact that community policing is one of your forefront agenda, and not just because it's mandated by Commissioner of Force mandate through the strategy plan, but having a direct working experience with you from the community relations standpoint. But we'll do community policing to close because that's the trend we need to go.
Right.
But I just want to take you back a bit to the last weekend,
Right.
which would have, quote unquote, carnival, no carnival weekend, but carnival-like activities or mass-like activities had been done. And if my memory serves me right, the Eastern Division was on the spotlight for a period of time that would have been culturally what would have been the Juve morning.
Yes.
You led by example,
Yeah.
because you were there in person.
Yeah.
What drive you to take that form of approach, knowingly that carnival was cancelled and it was or should have been no carnival-like activity?
Right. Thank you for this question, and we can really speak for maybe the entire day or the rest of the program speaking about this aspect of it because it is critically important. What the public and the wider viewing world saw just over a week ago was not just a celebration or a protest or an expression of cultural activities. Our mission as the RGPF was not necessarily to prevent people from masquerading or not having carnival, even if it was declared no carnival. Mm-hmm. But the fundamental responsibility was that of safety. We are in a pandemic, and there is no understatement that could, or no statement that could really overstate the essence of safety in itself. And our objective, first and foremost, was to ensure that Grenada is safe and that all measures are taken to prevent the spread of the dreaded COVID-19, and in particular, as was recently discovered, the Delta variant, okay, which is in itself the deadliest of what they've discovered so far. And so our mission there was to prevent the spread by whatever means. Mm-hmm. And we understand that people were breaking the law. Right. It was not an authorized activity. The numbers were great, but our greatest concern then was how do we prevent a bad situation from becoming worse? Mm-hmm. Not that people were going to get into the towns, etc. We had a mission and we had an objective, and we know that we had to have achieved that. But foremost, we did not want the crowd to go further into what it should not have done, in that exposing more persons to what we consider could have been an outbreak. And we still don't know whether or not we are out of the woods, because there's very likely that we can have community spread, and very likely persons who were part of those activities could be infected, mm-hmm, and a lot of families could come down. Right. As it relates to my personal involvement and me seeming to be leading from the front, I am entrusted with a responsibility, and I guard my responsibility with my life. I give my commitment and my trust to the country and people of Grenada. Mm-hmm. And I do not know any way of doing it than to give it my best shot. And when we analyzed the situation in pre-planning and then just the morning when the events were unfolding, mm-hmm, mind you, let me just backtrack. the whole event of carnival activities and COVID-19, there is no blueprint that you would follow. Right. You have to be innovative, you have to be on spot, and you have to be able to think on your feet. And so faced with that threat on the weekends before and on the Monday morning in particular, I thought, as you mentioned, my own experience and background, I felt and I knew I had to have been the best person at that time to deal with the situation. Mm-hmm. So I was not going to leave it up to my 2IC and assistant superintendent or any inspector or anybody else. I decided I want to be there. I will be there on front. And in addition to that, a senior person's presence who understands the ground, who has, in my opinion, the tact and skill to engage people. I thought if I was there, if I have to be there, will be there, I would inspire my juniors to be part of the process. And I think I did. And so getting there on the ground, one had to be calm over situation. And I think God has given me the ability to maintain a level of calm. He has also given me a way of engaging and dealing with people. If you follow the footage of some of what was captured, you would recognize that I physically went on ground, tried to identify who were leaders or persons with influence that I could have engaged them and speak to them. And my conversation was, listen, you are breaking the law. We are in a pandemic. What you're doing can have further devastating implications. You need to disperse or to find some other place, if you can't, to do it peacefully. And this is what we did. And it was not the police against revelers, definitely not. It was, as I mentioned before, one, a safety issue, and second was a security factor. And I have all the respect for the men and women, and I want to publicly commend the entire RGPF. But let me be biased. I want to single out the officers of the Eastern Division. They stood shoulder to shoulder with me. Even if I elevated myself on a vehicle to have gotten a vantage point from which I could have commanded the situation, they stood at my shoulder every time. They listened to my instructions all the time. They were briefed prior and they followed everything to the T. And I think people respected us for our level of professionalism. We also want to say that we respect the people for understanding that they were violating the law. We gave them instruction and they adhered to it. The final point I want to really make on that subject, to any other questions you would ask me, is that while we were very tolerant in our approach, while we were very forbearing and professional in our approach, which is our guard taglines that Commissioner of Police wanted us to be prided by or to continue to go by, we exhibited what is called a continuum of force, or the force continuum. Right. And the first level is to engage and to speak to people and ensure. The other one, you give them particular instruction and you can get physical with them. Right. I want to just use this forum to say that we rise to every occasion, we balance, we are conditional and situationally aware of what's happening around us and make decisions accordingly. And I do not want people to feel that we would want to have gotten against them, as people say that 1,000, 100,000 jab versus 1,000 police, you all can't match up. And there is no way we were intending to match up. What we were intending is to ensure that law and order prevail. And one, while we were very professional in our approach and very tolerant, if we had to have raised our level to do other things, we were prepared to do that. And I want that to be stated very firm and very precise, that if the situation had gotten to be different, we were going to rise to be different as well. So while we were dealing with, speaking with persons, coercing them into saying this is what you need to do, if people had changed their approach, changed their attitude, we definitely were going to change ours. Right. So I want to really make that clear, that we will stand firm. We would guard what we supposed to guard and maintain the law that we are entrusted with. And by no means are we expected to back down or shy away from our responsibility that this nation expects us to uphold. Yes. And
go ahead, continue.
I just want to say that I want to commend Grenadians, because as the scripture says, more are for us than they that be for them. Mm-hmm. And we have the Lord guiding us in what we do. We are a praying nation, And while people may have seen revelers and some distasteful and regrettable activities that took place, and some people call it defiance or otherwise, but by and large, we are proud that the majority of Grenadians do not support lawlessness. And the minority, despite how it looked across the world, it still was in the minority. And this, even people may say it reflects Grenada, I don't think it really reflects who generally we are. By and large, we are a law-abiding citizen, and it is for us as a society to change that kind of behavior, to try to be cultured differently, and for law enforcement to stand its own ground, to be very more professional in what we do, and to find the best fit in engaging people and ensuring that law and order is maintained.
Well, I'm happy that you made the point and you preempt my question in regards to the various levels of force that can be used and authorized by law when you are faced with responding to situations, or even on our day-to-day responding to domestic reports. And I say that the usual reports that come in, there are different levels that are used. But with that being said, and as I said, you led by example, and it was there for the world to see. I know that we are normally followed by within the Caribbean, our records have shown that, and you had certainly left a legacy, because as a junior having to face that, and you know the law say no, that's all you're hearing. But with community policing being our guide, experience also comes into play. It was handled properly and fitting.
Thank you.
Just to make us shift a little away from the carnival situation, because it's gone. That's a chapter that is closed in the book thus far, but it left stains.
Yes, it has.
And for the Eastern Division, it's no exception to any other part in and of that within the Tri-Island state. So while you touched it a bit in regards to the COVID issue and the safety mechanism, the question I want to ask you is, how do you rate the general compliance within your division where COVID is concerned, and what really you would like to say to the general public?
That is a question that I don't struggle very often to answer questions, but in terms of rating the compliance level, there could be varying levels of grading. In terms of the wearing of masks, it fluctuates at times. And I think the reflection in the Eastern Division is that of what the state is generally. And maybe by human nature, it's a reflection as to how human beings react. When something seems to be very prevalent, you step and you adjust.
Right.
If there is an announcement that there is a case in the community, almost everyone wears a mask. And if you say that there could be a chance of community spread, then people take different measures. They want to hand wash, they want to sanitize, they want to do the recording and so forth. I am not comfortable. So let me answer it in this way, that the level of compliance, regardless of what grade it may be at, it is not satisfactory. Okay. I would prefer to see every person who walks on the street wear their mask. But not just that. Wearing a mask also tells us, one, you are conscious of the safety factor, and two, that you're law-abiding, because the law requires every person in a public place to wear a face mask or a face covering that covers nose, mouth, and chin. Right. And that is law. And persons, as you mentioned before, could be ticketed, and now they can be arrested for not complying with the COVID-19 regulations. So I would love to see more compliance where this is concerned, albeit people who are walking the streets within the Eastern Division and across Grenada. My discomfort is that people tend to feel that it is okay to walk by a police not wearing your mask. Oh, yeah. And it's something that I totally stand against. Right. That if somebody breaks the law, they must not feel, and I've said that to my officers every time, we must ensure and point out to people that you're committing an offense. Why are you not wearing your mask? But it even becomes worse when someone would walk alongside a police officer or go past a police station not wearing a mask. I want to sound it. It is one of the things that we will not stand for. And I've instructed the officers that they must remind people. And having said about remind, one of the things that we wish to do is to ensure, despite it is said ignorance of the law is no excuse. But I have advised our officers that they must bring to the attention of persons that you are violating the law, and it is a requirement. About 3 weeks ago, we spoke to someone in Grenville. I said, why are you not wearing your mask? And she said to me, well, I have my mask, but I'm just not wearing it at this time. I said, do you know it's the law and it could be prosecuted? She said, really? I said, yes. She said, but I didn't know it's part of the law and it could be. I said, yes, you can be. And she did say eventually that she was a teacher. I said, you are a teacher. If you are, then you should be aware of the law, because you need to bring this to your students as well, so that they could be aware. So she said she wasn't aware. She thought it was just people were told to wear masks. And so I instruct the officers and remind them that you must advise people it is against the law, you must wear your mask. But you don't want to just wear your mask because the law says to do so. Mm-hmm. You must be brought to the place where you understand it is a safety measure, not just for yourself, but for everyone. Right. And so now that we have this cross finger where we are likely to have community spread, you will see more compliance. Mm-hmm. You'll see more people trying to adhere to the law. Business places and places of entertainment and otherwise, we're hoping that every person can step up the measure. And it goes to the point where whether or not you believe in vaccination, vaccination is one of the options of the safety measures that is there for people to use as a protective measure against getting very ill if you happen to contract COVID-19. So it is one of the things that people should consider and take a decision as to ensuring that you and your family, you are well protected. By all means, all options are available to protect oneself, because it is it is an invisible enemy, and even now it comes with no symptoms with the Delta variant. Even more dangerous. So we have to be mindful of that. And as law enforcement persons, we have to ensure that we let people know and that we bring to justice those who blatantly disregard the law.
I want to put you on the spot, Superintendent. We're speaking COVID, and many a times you go into various government places and other business places, and you're seeing where the public has to meet the staff, that the staff is somewhat protected, whether it's through barricade or other means, COVID protocols and protection. What is it in place for your staff at the Eastern Division?
Oh, well, that's a call that again, we do have some measures in place for that. I do not take protective measure under law very lightly.
Right.
I went to St. Vincent earlier on this year, and I saw in government places that we were dealing with serving members of the public, and I was one of the first to bring it out to them and said, this is not right. I was saying, you are exposing your staff, you're exposing members of the public to it. And it is no exception for police officers here in Grenada. I moved around police stations and police places and recognized there's a lot more we can do. So recently, we did send out a circular to all police officers saying to them, you must first and foremost protect yourself against those who may not think it is necessary for them to do so. And you must also protect your families. Yesterday at our mid-supervisors meeting, I did remind the supervisors, I said to them, listen, in no uncertain term, please protect yourselves and your families. If you are not protected, you can't protect anyone else. If you're not alive, you can't save somebody else. So you need to be able to do that. In addition to that, I have revisited the infrastructure and the facilities in which we are required to function. And as we speak, we are currently undertaking some greater security measures or safety measures for our officers and for members of the public, because we need to protect ourselves. But in addition to that, when members of the public come to us or they see us, they must realize that we are protecting ourselves, and they will take a cue from that. Well, if they're doing that, I need to protect myself as well. So it's a chain reaction. It is an effect that goes and could only go upward. And when people see us leading from the front, I think that they would also take example from that. So I have taken personal responsibility, Ms. Grant, to ensure that the facilities that the officers with whom I'm entrusted to manage and to lead, that they too are protected, and we lead by example, because it's not just leading, but their health is as important as mine and everybody else's.
Thank you so much. So in the near future, listeners, when you engage with stations within the Eastern Division, you will see that we're not just talking, or we're not just beseeching you to do, but we ourselves. But although we have already been implementing some of it, you have the sanitizing, you have the thermometer, checking for the temperature, and even the offices within the yard that is not within the general station have some measures that we're looking at. But as simple as you can do, wear your mask, sanitize, observe the safe space, the social distancing, and we should be okay. Look out for your brother, be your brother's keeper. So in studio with me, Superintendent Sylvan McIntyre, officer in charge of the Eastern Division. And for you, saying, where is the East again? Because I know him in St. George's. The East is Grenville as a head station, Birch Grove, Hermitage, and St. David. So you realize he got a lot on his plate in terms of geographical space and also in terms of the level of reporting of offenses that comes in. But Superintendent, I want to take a brief infomercial break, and we will be right back as we continue with the program, The Conversation with the RGPF.
For my family, with my life I protect you daily, but before I make a flaw, you're ready to hang me stewards and the law. Remember when they kill Renty, you said I'm police too choky. No man fights with police and dead. You say the force is where killers are bred. So when I hear you complaining, I have to agree. Is you society guilty of police brutality against me? The brutal society brutal. Oh gosh, they brutal. My society brutal.
Yes, listeners, we are here with The Conversation with the RGPF, and I'm in studio with my supervisor, my boss, officer in charge of the Eastern Division. And we have been discussing various topics because, it's our inaugural meeting with the officer, our program. He has never been in studio. And every piece that we think you ought to know, should know, must know, I'm trying to have him speak on it this morning. So please bear with me. And if you need him to come back and you want the lines to open, please indicate so you know. Me and Mr. Donald will team up and get him here on that aspect. But Superintendent, you can't come on a program and do not speak of the, I don't want to say criminal activities, but some of the crime and offenses and antisocial behaviors that are being committed. I can recall for the last quarter, the previous quarter, sexual offense has been one of the plaguing issues for the Eastern Division and also the force at large.
Right.
But I want you to keep to the Eastern Division. Let's remain a little biased this morning. What is it in regards to the crime stand or status you would want to raise or bring to the forefront for our listeners?
So, Ms. Grant, I'm really sorry to disappoint you, but whatever I speak about as crime in the Eastern Division, it's also a reflection across country.
I agree.
And that's honest, because
right, yes.
Despite people refer to the Eastern Division as one of the places that has most of the crimes in any event, the statistics in terms of numbers, it's more than any place, and regrettably that is the case that I am working there, but I'm happy to be working within the Eastern Division to contribute towards that. But on top of the list, we do have crimes against the person. For instance, threatening language and harm offenses. Threatening language, threats and so on form most of the reports that comes to all of our stations across the Eastern Division. As you mentioned, spanning from Westerhall in the south to Mali, St. Patrick, Hermitage in the north. And we have Birch Grove towards the center and St. David and Grenville in the mix. So threatening language and threats and causing harm and harm offenses are on top of the list. But what we've seen raising its ugly head recently was sexual offenses, indecent assault, sexual assault, and rape. Our commissioner is intending to give our, I think it's the quarterly or maybe the second quarter report in terms of crime stats across the country. And there's a reflection as to where we have a decrease. And I can give you a little forebit into it, in that we've had a decrease, as he indicated, likely in rape cases across country, and similarly in the Eastern Division, but we've had an increase in the other sexual related offenses. In particular, we've had a lot of cases against minors being reported. It is a scourge. It is something that is distasteful, not just for the society hearing it, but for the victims themselves, young persons, young ladies, and children, very young children who are exposed to these kind of offenses. But in addition to that, one of the things that we are seeing that is raising its ugly head is the matter of incest, and person thinking that it is okay to have those sexual moves and actions and advances towards persons of their own family, whether it's a cousin, a niece, a nephew, and against fathers' own children, their daughters, they are committing those offenses. And we're going to speak a little bit later on as to some strategies as to how we're going to address that. But there are some places in the Eastern Division where some of these offenses are most prevalent. We do have the issue of housebreaking and stealing, and it is balanced across. Now there's an average amount that we account for on a weekly basis.
Right.
But last couple of weeks we've had it on the low, sort of, because we made some useful breakthrough in arresting some persons we believe that were involved. And so there are some other offenses, the narcotics and drugs, and so that in itself is a concern for us. But one of the issues that hinges again on the safety measure is the mix between the illegal entry, narcotics, and COVID-19. What we find is that there are persons within the division, or in Grenada as a whole, who are using the illegal way of getting to the other islands, and sometimes taking persons into our shorelines into the island. We have recorded the largest amount of illegal entry for this year than we've ever had. And that is troubling, because the islands to our north, further north of us, that are riddled, infested with COVID-19, persons are taking their chances to either jump one of these speedboats, or otherwise the legitimate trade of fishing and the illegal trade of the narcotic trade is happening. And so that exposes us quite a bit, again, to those kinds of threats. And it is something that we are really trying to stay on. The other aspect of the crimes that we really want to zero in on in here is there are some what we consider to be hot and troubled spots. There are about 6 places in the entire division that once there is an offense or crime is committed, it could be associated to one of these places. We are again going to speak as to how we are addressing that. I am not too sure whether or not I should speak of these places, because sometimes people who are from there do not like to be associated that it's a hot spot or it's a negative spot. But people would know some of the troubled areas within the division where certain offenses are committed more prevalently. But as I said before, threatening language, the use of threat, and stabbing, which we saw happening over what should have been the carnival season, cutlass and knives, etc. We recognize that people do not exhibit good control over their temper. The other thing we recognize that there is not a lot of anger management and these levels of control. So we will be speaking just before we conclude some of our strategies in ensuring that we can help people to deal with those issues, anger management, conflict resolution, and how we can advise people to be more safe and to not involve themselves in the illegal activities Gang-related activity is not so prevalent here, but we're seeing instances where groups of persons are wanting to come together to commit crimes. And it's something that, as I said before, we have some strategy in place to deal with it.
While we look at criminal offenses and some of the antisocial issues within our society, one of the organizations that has been raising an ugly head, or we have some concerns, is that of the busing society, the busmen,
Right.
the bus drivers. To speak this morning, my colleague or our colleagues are conducting an operation where we are engaging. It's not because we want to harass and heckle, and I'm certain you would share the same sentiment, but it's for the safety of all, because as we have seen some months back with videos circulating with busmen and so forth, our colleague is saying that the operation had went down smoothly, peacefully, although there has been some weapon that has been confiscated
Today?
This morning again.
Right, okay.
But that would come out in a media release sometime during the course of the day.
Right.
But I want to take that with all what you have said and bring it over into some of the strategies, some of the community policing network, because considering community policing is the bridging the gap between the community and the police and the community, vice versa. What are some of the strategies? And I'm going back bias again to the division. That you as at the head is advocating or looking towards, that we can close that gap and help to eradicate some of these criminal activities.
As I indicated before, the lawbreakers are in the minority. But let me just state this. We love Grenada.
Yeah.
We love the Eastern Division and everybody within, and we are pleased and honored to serve. But we must serve to the interests of everyone. And if you ask me for a bias, to the majority. So we have to give the sense of reassurance to every citizen and visitor alike that Grenada is a peaceful place, and we want to be able to maintain that. Right. And when things raise its head, we have to, implement measures that would curb it. We recognize the issue of threats, threatening language, and harm. Harm offenses, people chopping people, they're stabbing persons, they're losing their temper, and they slashing or giving incisions and lacerations, etc. So what we've decided is that we are going to become a bit more forceful. If somebody threatens another person, you're going to be arrested. We're going to take you into the station, and we are going to deal. Even if we have to warn you, you're going to be arrested. We're going to bring you in. If somebody harms someone, the harm offense weapon will be confiscated. We are going to conduct, and it is no secret, we are going to be conducting such as campaigns across country to ensure that those who are suspected, those who are committing, that we are going to bring it to some level of justice. So there will be operations, there will be exercises, and forgive us, it is no target against busmen. We are not targeting busmen, but we recognize that if we have persons who are commuting by that means of transport, we need to give them some level of safety, some assurance of security, because it carries the single most number of persons at any one time in one of those buses. So we have to do that. Individuals who are moving along as well, you can count on us that will happen. So it's not a secret, because what we want to happen is that these offenses, they do not occur, and people could be safe. So we are expecting to conduct more of this. But that is one side of policing enforcement. The other angle of it, we want to be able to engage people, and we want, as I said before when I started this program, to police Grenada not by the men and women in uniform, but every citizen has a responsibility to police, in that if someone is suspected of committing a crime or will commit a crime, it is the responsibility of every citizen to engage that person and say, you should not be doing that. Exactly. And if one cannot engage such persons, then it is also your responsibility, a civic responsibility, to report or to inform the police of what's happening at the community level. But that will not happen very easy, because people, to to a large extent would need a sense of trust in the police. We're hoping that you do have that, those who are listening to us. And there's this measure of confidence that when you want to speak to us in confidence, that it will be held in that way and that we can continue to enforce. So we are looking forward for the partnership with members of the society. And here comes our Citizens Advisory Body. We have a Citizens Advisory Body within the Eastern Division as well. And the Citizen Advisory Body is not there as informants. They are there to help us with strategies in how we can best police the communities, because they are the ones who, they are civil, they live within there, they will understand the ground and the communities better than we do. So we're depending on that kind of knowledge to be able to police more effectively. So you can see us taking stronger measures. You are also going to be seeing us taking softer measures, in that we will be intending to engage people at different levels, different forum, different meetings, different activities, in ensuring that we can really stay on top of the crime situation. Whenever there is a domestic dispute, we do have the Community Relations Department, skilled and trained persons who can help, or they can, what we say, facilitate, get persons who might be more experienced and have the level of expertise that can advise persons, that can counsel persons to deal with this situation that they may not have control over at the particular time. So it's a collective package. Right. And it is one that there is no blueprint, no fixed way of doing it, but we have to be able to listen to members of the public at every level. I always say that there is no rank with ideas and recommendations, and so every person who has something, a suggestion that can improve our ability to police better, I am personally open to that. I do accept people without appointments at my office, but I would prefer that you do that. But if somebody shows up and they say that there is some interest, something they wish to share, or some help that they need, the Eastern Division's office in Grenville open to be able to do that.
All right. But while still under community policing, I know the Eastern Division has led in terms of the mobile station. The little voices that are saying, well, you didn't come to my community yet, or I haven't seen you. Is there anything that you would like to say in regards to the mobile station?
Yes. One of the reasons why we do set up the mobile stations, to give people a sense of assurance, first and foremost, that the police are within your reach and you can reach us. And sometimes there are persons who may think, well, it is difficult for us to get to a police and so forth. In addition to that, having a mobile command set up somewhere, the visible image of police at a community set up there shows that, one, we are concerned and we are in communities and we want to be there. So it is our intention to be able to set up in communities where we think that people need to reach us more than we can reach them. So we can be at your reach. So the communities where we have not been posted as yet, you can be rest assured, as the mobile command becomes available, as our static duties and other things are positioned, we will engage you. And our community policing that we do the walk through, we are intending where the mobile stations are not posted, our individuals will be coming through to engage people and have that conversation.
Right. As you touch on the static points, I know it's a means to enforce that of the curfew that is in effect.
Yes.
But someone asked me yesterday, how effective, now that Carnival is over, how effective is that static duty, and is it making sense? Can you respond?
Yes, it is. The effectiveness of the static duty is as effective as people adhere to the law. Right. They make it easier for us if when midnight everyone goes to their bed or within the confines of their own yard and their own space. That's easier for us. Mm-hmm. And by and large, people are complying. Right. I want to give Grenadians that level of respect, that the majority of people are complying. Most of the streets are quiet, limited movement after the midnight hour, save and except you have emergency vehicle and persons in essential services that would make movement. But I just want to give a side of caution that persons who need to move within those times need to ensure that the access pass, it is authentic, it is up to date. And I'm still advising persons, if you don't have to be outside, if there is no emergency, do not move around uselessly. it is against the law. It's a violation. It's an offense to be out after midnight because there's a curfew hour from midnight to 4 in mornings. But it is effective because we've had persons coming through who can't give a reason why they are outside, and so they will be ticketed or arrested. We've arrested persons, and arresting is an extreme end of the enforcement.
Yeah.
But if we have to arrest people, we have to take you in because we think you need to be in safekeeping or otherwise, we would do that as well. But we would prefer that people do not give us that level of challenge. The other point I want to make on that is that there are some persons who think it is okay to drive through. Mm-hmm. I want to guard against that. The police is authorized to use levels of force to restrain or to subdue any person who drive through or intend to break through any static point or a road checkpoint that is set up by the police. So you do not want to get yourself in harm's way. Mm-hmm. You don't want to get hurt by trying to drive through by whatever means. Mm-hmm. It may not be something illegal, but it may be something that you may not want to disclose at the time. Okay. So for your own safety, take the level of embarrassment if you think that you need to, if you're happening to be carrying or be out at a time when it shouldn't be. Stop, have the police check you and deal with you in a way that should be dealt with. Yep.
But Super, as usual, the hour always swiftly runs out on us. But the program has been meaningful. I have been getting 1 or 2 WhatsApp indicating that the program has been a success in terms of the information that has been disseminated. However, you can't come here and do a program of that nature and do not leave some closing word with us. So I know you spoke on various issues, but those that are burning or relevant, I just want you to submit that.
Absolutely, I will do that. And you've been a great host, I may say, but I just want to extend my gratitude to the it's Real FM for hosting this program. It has been long in coming for me to be here. I can say that I enjoyed every moment of it, sharing to members of the public. But as I conclude, I just want to guard against what is seeming to be a trend of lawlessness. Grenadians, by extension, are not lawless people. We don't want to give the international community that we are. The few people who think it is okay to break the law, it was really distasteful to hear people using obscene against police officers during those times. We expressed some level of restraint during those times, but that level of restraint will not continue forever. There's what is called a force continuum. When situation changes, we will change and adjust to it as well. But by and large, I would like to give commendations to those who are law-abiding citizens. Finally, COVID-19 is an invisible enemy. It infringes on our safety space. It infringes on law enforcement. Let's be wise. Let's be sensible. Let's be aware of our environment and understand the implication it can have. It can have breakdown for economy, law enforcement, or general society on a whole. So I would advise persons more than any aspect of law abiding and compliance right now, but to be COVID-19 compliant. Wear your mask, a proper face covering, sanitize, the distancing. People who wish to participate in any social event at all, remember that the regulation that is designed in terms of the number, they are designed for a particular reason, to avoid or to limit the spread of COVID-19, because we don't know where it could be. Be smart, be compliant, listen to the advice given to the health officials, and most importantly, those of us who are entrusted with law enforcement. We are there as the custodian of the law, but we are also your servants.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. And on that note, I would say farewell to you all listeners, and God bless you. You have listened to The Conversation with the RGPF. See you again next Wednesday with another program, The Conversation with the RGPF.
Days 2,000 contact persons. These also include travelers. Residents in the Deux Plateaux neighborhood of the capital.
Triple N. Informative, entertaining, and first. Every hour on the hour.